Early intervention via telepractice is our topic of conversation today. But before diving in, please comment below and type yes if you provide early intervention services. Hi everyone, welcome to TheraPlatform's Teletherapy channel, where we share teletherapy tips and resources. If you're new to this channel, click on the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, on the bell icon to get notifications about our new videos. Today I sit down with Dr. Todd Houston to talk about early intervention. Dr. Houston is one of the leaders in telepractice in speech and language pathology. He's also a professor at Akron University, where he teaches students how to become teletherapists and runs early intervention program there. Let's see what he has to say about early intervention via telepractice. Hi, Dr. Houston. How are you today?
Very good, Betty. It's great to be with you.
Thank you so much. It's nice to see you again. We met on your podcast initially, so I'm really excited to see you again.
The other one, yeah, this one.
That's the one.
There you go. That one over there.
That's the one. So it's very nice to connect with you again. And our today's topic of conversation is early intervention. But before we dive in, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get into speech and language pathology?
Well, I won't bore you with all the gory details, but it really started in one sense when I was a child. I had a cousin who was deaf, and we would spend summers together, and he used American Sign Language, and that kind of gave me sort of an exposure to deafness, so to speak. But I went through high school and through college, and sort of my first career, I thought I was going to be a world famous photojournalist. So I focused on journalism and writing and photography, and did that for a number of years. And then it just sort of seemed that for a period of time there was lots of different stories I kept getting that were focused on hearing loss or children and those kinds of things. And so it was like the universe was saying, you need to take another look at this. And I was going through a period of time at that point of maybe thinking of another career, and this idea of deafness and hearing loss kept coming up. And so I was in Columbia, South Carolina at that point, and I approached the university and saw what kind of graduate programs they had, and they had a graduate program at the time, both in speech language pathology and audiology. And I wanted to work more with children and be more on the communication side, so I chose speech language pathology and did my graduate work there, and the rest is history. I've been then went back there and did a PhD later on, and had some other positions since then.
Yeah, that's great. And it seems like everyone in our field has someone who inspired them to proceed with this career too. So it's nice to hear that you chose this career and you made so many great contributions and helped so many children and families. That's fantastic.
Well, thank you.
And now, how about telepractice? How did you get into telepractice?
Well, at the time I was on faculty at Utah State University, and I was brought in to help sort of expand or create a specialization in their graduate program in speech language pathology to have a focus on listening and spoken language for children who are deaf and hard of hearing. So they hired me, and they actually hired an audiologist, a pediatric audiologist. They had gotten some funding at that point in time to really develop this specialization, this focus within the graduate program. And so I came in as a new professor at the time, and started working on those things and teaching and doing clinical work and research and all of that. And another colleague actually had gotten some seed funding to look at a pilot program to provide early intervention services to children with hearing loss and their families. and to do that through telepractice. And of course, they came to me and said, well, we want you to sort of lead this and take it on. And I have to say, at the, when that first happened, it was like, oh no, another thing on my plate. I'm trying to get tenure. I'm doing research. I'm teaching. I've got clinical work. I mean, how am I going to fit all this in? And luckily, within I would say about a 2-week period after we got all the equipment set up, I just fell in love with it. I thought, this is exactly the way to go, and this is what we need to be doing more of.
Mhm.
And so I just had a complete epiphany at that point. It was just changing my whole perspective on what technology could do and how we could serve more children and more families.
Mhm.
And we saw really great outcomes with the families that we were working with, and got that kind of feedback from the families that they really enjoyed being able to stay in their home, receive the services, get the parent coaching, and we saw the real results in the children and how they were communicating and everything from that point forward. And so I've stayed with that focus really since then. And I left Utah State University and came to the University of Akron, where I am now. And we've continued that and continue to work with early intervention, mostly with kids in early intervention and their families, as well as some that are doing inpatient as well at Akron Children's Hospital.
Mhm. Great. I mean, that's amazing. And you're right, being able to reach out to all these families who may never have these options is huge, especially when we have this window of opportunity and we work with, a plastic brain, it can really make a huge difference for the child and the families too. Now, one of the common questions that I hear from SLPs who are just starting in telepractice is early intervention possible on the video call? And is this even an ethical thing for us to do? So
Sure.
what is your take on it?
Well, first off, I think it's certainly ethical to do. And I think where a lot of SLPs get lost in this thinking through of what you're doing in terms of early intervention, we have to take a step back and remember early intervention is really, that birth to 3, so, about that age range. But what we're really doing at that, young age is working with the parents. And so I think the challenge that I see right now among lots of speech language pathologists and other professionals that are doing early intervention is that they never learn to do the parent coaching of how to really coach the parent and help the parent develop the skills to be good language models for their child. And so, yes, I probably, like you, have gotten emails and phone calls, especially over the past couple of years during this COVID pandemic, where early interventionists were saying, well, how am I going to do this? They're going to put this, 2-year-old in front of the camera and I'm going to have to work with them. Well, no, a 2-year-old is not going to sit in front of a camera and just let you work with them and respond to you. It's working with the parents and doing the parent coaching. And that's the big difference with early intervention versus more, with older kids, where you're doing more direct service with those older children. But I see that, a lot of training programs, and I'm, on faculty in a training program, really, I think for the average training program probably doesn't do a lot of instruction or clinical practicum focused on parent coaching on average. And the way the clock hours that are required for speech language pathologists or those students in speech language pathology, the way those are set up now, you may do your whole clinical training before you graduate and may not do any early intervention. You may, maybe have one child in that age range. And and so it kind of depends on the graduate training program and what the student is exposed to and has an opportunity to build those skills. So I think we have to do more to train people that are pre-service as well as in service of how we effectively use telepractice for early intervention.
And, you know, it feels different to do early intervention on the video call, because when we think about early intervention, we think about, you know, being with the child on the floor and following the child lead, right? So usually we are hands-on in the treatment room, and now we have to be the brain for the parent, and parents are our hands. So it takes a lot of practice to coach the parents and do it in the moment. I think that's the art of it, right?
Very much so.
Do you have any tips on, you know, how you would coach the parents, or even activity-wise? Like, what do you guys do in your early intervention programs?
Sure. So, you know, a basic process would be, you know, once you connect with the family, then you have the family on at the same time doing, you know, synchronous early intervention. Then what we try to do is we will first model, you know, the activity that we want the parent to do. And we're going to explain why we're doing it and why it's important for the parent to be able to also do that activity, and really what the outcome we are expecting, or what kind of impact will this, you know, doing this, how is it going to help their child? Because we have to remember that parents are adult learners. And so we are trying to change the behavior of another adult learner. And we know adult learners want to know, well, why is this, you know, why am I doing this? You know, and of course, most parents want to know why is this effective, you know? And so, excuse me. So if you explain, you know, what you're doing first and model what you're doing, and then say, okay, mom or dad, your turn. Why don't you give it a try? And then you're watching and you're coaching. And then you kind of switch to being sort of coaching in the moment when they are doing the activity. And I'm always very positive with my parents, even if they are kind of getting off track or not quite getting what I'm asking them to do. I'll say that was okay. Let's try it a different way. And so you use some different strategies like that. And then you may go through several activities. And then by the end, what I want families to do is to be able to reflect on what occurred during the session. What could we do to make it better next time? You know, is there things that I could do as a clinician that would have made it easier for the parent to be able to actually do the activities? And then we'll have some time talking about what we want, you know, what I would want the parent to work on before the next session, maybe a week later or 2 weeks, whatever that scenario is. And then always asking, you know, the parents, you know, if they have other questions or other observations they'd like to share. And just, I really want to make sure that they feel comfortable before I leave the session of what we worked on, why it was important, what outcome are we trying to get to, and then answer those questions that they may have.
Yeah.
And then we usually sign off. And just sort of a back up a little bit, you know, what we've tried to do as well is to try to send sort of a lesson plan prior to the session, so that parents can see what we have planned, what we're going to be working on. They can gather all the materials, the toys, the things that we might need prior to that session. And so that gives me an opportunity, if they have questions about the plan, they can email or call me before the session, and we can, you know, I can answer those questions or address any concerns they may have. And then by the time we actually log on at the appointment time, you know, they have all the materials usually, and they're ready to go, and they understand what we're going to be working on. And they may not have all the strategies down and know some of the other things that we're going to talk about, but they've sort of mentally prepared and have an expectation of what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And I know that you have written a book about telepractice, and you have a great website with different resources for SLPs. So can you tell us a little bit about, how do you support SLPs? Do you provide any trainings, things of this nature?
Sure. Well, the one thing that we've done, and so switching from my sort of faculty hat that I wear, that's sort of my day job, and sort of my other nighttime job and other free time that I have is sort of devoted to the 3C Digital Media Network. And that's the website is 3cdigitalmedianetwork.com. And I encourage everyone to come on over and take a look. What we're trying to do is build a community of learning for allied health professionals and educators, early interventionists. And certainly we have lots of content related to telepractice. And we certainly we have, like you were mentioning, we have some webinars and courses and some other materials there. We've developed the podcasts as well, like Telepractice Today. We have 3 or 4 other podcasts and a couple others that we'll be adding soon on some related topics. And we are encouraging new content creators. If you want to come onto the site and develop content with us and be able to offer that content for sale, that is part of the aspect as well, is that we're a business where we want to generate revenue, obviously, to kind of keep things going. But more importantly, we want to be a website where content creators that are in the allied health area or in education, if they have for example, if they have a podcast idea, they want to do a whole podcast, we can do that with them. And then if they want to develop, a webinar or a course around that content, we can work with them on that as well. And if they have print materials, that's something that we'll be adding hopefully in the next few months, or you can then buy the print material that they've produced. And so we're trying to be sort of an all-inclusive site and really developing this platform for content creators, but also be able to offer really good content for those people who are looking for podcasts and different information or webinars or courses to do that upskilling that a lot of people are now doing.
I mean, that's great. And it's just so nice to connect with experts, because sometimes, we do a lot of different things in speech therapy, but when we want to kind of create a niche in our private practice, connecting with a mentor or a colleague who is specializing in early intervention, for example, makes a huge difference too. So that's wonderful. Well, I have included the link to your website below this video description. So please check it out. And thank you so much for joining me today. And I might have you over for another interview on a different topic too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Betty. Anytime, I'm happy to join you.
Perfect. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching, and if you want us to make similar videos to this one, click on the like button. See you next time.